first part of our Python programming course from the YouTube series. And as you can see, I use Google Colab for teaching this part. Feel free to use VS Code or other interpreter if you are familiar with them, but I think that for beginner, that's better to use Google Colab. If you are not familiar with Google Colab, you can search about that, but you can actually make it comment and mention that. I can actually show you how you can use Google, but this is so easy, and I think that this is so basic, and definitely I just assume that you know how to actually open a Google Colab notebook. So the first part of the series is about basic of the Python, like data types, variables, built-in function, strings, and more about basics. The first topic I'm interested in to talk about that is Python data type. But keep in mind, the Python data type is different from Python data structure that we will talk about that later in next videos in this series. Some fundamentals data types like integer, float, boolean, and string. So I will talk about the difference between these data types, but we have some specific custom data types like classes and specialized type like module, this combination of different functions. But don't worry about that. We'll talk and cover all of them in next videos in this series. But now our first topic is about data types and examples about that. Let's use a built-in type function that can be really useful in this section. So in Python, we have some built-in functions that are really helpful, and in a lot of programming language we don't have built-in function like this, and that actually is a really easy way. Without writing a complete function, we can use this ready function, and that can be really useful. In our case, type function can actually show us the data type of a specific variable or value. And because you are not still familiar with the variables, we just want to use the value here. If you want to check what is this built-in function, just between the parentheses, shift control space, and then you can get some information about this type. You can see this is a type object, and actually it can actually show us the type of the value. Let's show you an example. For example, 7. 7 is an integer. What is integer? Integer means that we don't have any digit number, like for example 7.6767. So it's a complete number like 7 without any digits. And if I just shift enter here, you can see the type of 7 is integer. The same, for example, here, if I like a very long number like this strange number, still that is an integer. So in some programming language, for example, integer with a small amount, we had a kind of data type. With a bigger amount, maybe that's a little bit different. But here, for all integer, we have the integer type. So as you can actually guess that now the float is the type of the number. It has some digit, like for example 10.01. It's a float number, or any number like for example 20.6. Okay, so it's a float number. And what about the Boolean? Boolean is like a true or false in Python program. So if I say true here, the type of true is Boolean. Another kinds of the Boolean is false. Just keep in mind that's the capitalized version, okay? So this is a Boolean. And what about a string? A string comes in a quotation, usually in a double quotation, or it can even be in the single quotation. So for example, if you want to write my name, Pejman, here, you can see this the type is a string. And even I can use the single quotation like this, Pejman, and still that is a string. So that's all about the data type, the fundamental data type. We have integer, float, boolean, and a string. But what about variables? Variables are really necessary in our Python programming, and we need these variables. So there are some rules inside of the Python about the variables. They are not kind of compulsory things, but they are like actually contract among different developers. They follow the PEP and they like to write clear code. So I just suggest you to follow these actually instructions. In Python, we usually use variables in a snake case. For example, if you are familiar with other programming language, if I want to write my family in some programming language, maybe use variable like my family, like camel case, okay, and a value, anything. But here in Python, we usually use a snake case, and this is my family in this version, okay, and my family can be, for example, just for example, son, okay, or anything. So it's a string that is allocated to my family. So here the equal means allocate a value, a variable to a amount to a variable, okay. So this is a variable, and it usually starts with lowercase, not with uppercase, so it's not a good idea to start with capital M here. We usually use the lowercase. We use the uppercase when we want to define the classes. This is different story. We don't like to start with the numbers, and we have error here, and you can see here statement must be separated by neolines or semicolons, and variables cannot start actually with the numbers. You cannot use, for example, symbols like this. You can use actually, but it's not meaningful. You cannot actually use keywords as a variable name. For example, your name cannot be something like print. That's not a good idea because print is a built-in function inside of the Python, and we don't like to actually allocate a variable to that. So it's not meaningful. And if you like, you can actually check this link. It's from W3 School, and there are some Python keywords that we don't like actually to use them as a variable name. So that's all. And there's a PEP. You can actually check PEP Python, and there is a style of guide for Python code, how to write the Python codes, and you can actually get more information about that. Okay, but for here, let's define some variables. For example, my name, and my name can be Pejman, or color. For example, it can be blue, or score can be something like integer 20, or average score can be a float amount like 10.67. Okay, so, and even for example is continue, it can be true, like a Boolean value. So that is so easy. I guess that's not very complicated. We have a string. We allocate this string to the variable. The name is my name. Blue is a string 2, 20 is integer, 10.67 is a float, and true is here a Boolean value. We have another concept here. The name is constant. The constant is a little bit exception here. So as I mentioned, when we want to actually define the variable name, we use the snake case. But for constant, we need to use all letters capital. For example, the P. The P, you know that the amount is 3.14 and a lot of digits. Just consider that. This number never change. And so for variable, we like maybe to change these values later. But for constant, we like to keep this value forever because the p value is never changed. So it's always 3.14. So in this case, we like to use the constant variable in the capitalized form, okay? Or maybe I have a rule in my program, and the rule is, for example, false, something like that. Okay, so in this case, maybe I don't like to change this rule, and sorry, in this case, actually, I can use it as a constant. So this is all about the variables. I hope you understand it, and it's not very complicated. So just for review, for data type, we had integer, float, boolean, and string. And for variable, we just follow the rules. Snake case, start with lowercase, case sensitive, not started with numbers, don't override keywords, and we define the constant. You are familiar a little bit now with the built-in function like type I mentioned before, but we have more built-in function. One of them is print. When we want to actually print something, for example, when I want to say print my name. So if you remember, I can define, for example, again here, my name as a variable, and I can say my name is Peshman, and I can say another variable like my score, for example, and maybe my score is a number like, for example, 19, okay, and I like to print them. So in Colab, however, you don't need to use the print to show something. For example, if I just write here my name and just shift enter, it show my name. But when we want to use the print as a built-in function, we can say here print. And if you check shift control space, you can see inside of that, you just need to print something. Print the values to a stream. So I can say here my name, and the same of the previous output, it actually show my name, but in this case I just actually print the variable name. Okay, instead of putting my value directly here, I use the variable, and this is the flexible things I can use. Maybe I can actually allocate a new value, a new amount instead of this variable, so that's great. So let's me talk about another things. For example, ABS. Just imagine my score is minus 19, okay? And just use ABS and we will see what happened here. Let's just use ABS, okay? And maybe use print again, print ABS and my score. So let's see what happened. You can see the negative 19 is converted to 19. So this is the absolute amount of my score. And ABS actually give us the positive version of every number inside of the ABS. So let's use another one. This is the round. Just consider we have another number. This is my number. And this is a really big float number like um, or maybe a number with a lot of digits like this, or for example this one. Okay, so you can see we have a lot of digits here. How to use the round? You can say print round, and it can actually round a number, you can guess that, but we can actually say that how many digits to round. For example, if I just write here my number without any more explanation, what is your guess? It's actually round to 3, but maybe I like to say round my number with 2 digits. In this case, you can see 3.11, and maybe you like more, for example, 4 digits. In this case, 3.1135. So this is the way we can use the round. Let's talk about another things maybe that's interesting about print. This is formatted string. What is formatted string? Formatted string is a beautiful way to actually print something with more actually flexibility. Let's explain what is. Just consider I just want to print my name, my score, and my number in one line. How can I do that? Formatted string can be really interesting. However, I can use the string concatenation here. We will talk about that later. But I guess then, as a developer, you prefer more to use formatted string. And this is really easy. You just need to use the print f quotation. So print parenthesis F quotation. And you can bring your variable inside of the curly brace here. So in my case, I want my name, my score, and my number. So I can use 3 curly brace here. And other things are just writing. For example, my name is, and you can use your variable here, my name. So if you can actually guess that, the variables come inside of the curly brace. And my score is here, my score, and my favorite float number is, I want to round that, so round my number with 2 digits. Okay, so it's a big line, and see the output, and you can see here, let's just comment this one, and here you can see my name is Pejman and my score is -19, and even I can use the ABS here, so turn it to the positive amount. So my name is Pejman and my score is 19, and my favorite float number is 3.11. So this is the formatted string. We just use the F and quotation, double quotation. However, you can use again the single quotation, and just print something very beautiful. So that's all about formatted string and built-in functions. Operator precedence. What is operator precedence? Like other programming language, we can actually use plus, minus, subtraction, division, multiplication. So we can use all of them. But maybe some of them are most important. Let's just focus on that. And about operator precedence, there are some priority. For example, if we want to say 3 multiple 7 minus 2, and for example, again, multiple 2, what is your guess? Maybe you think that, okay, when first I need 3 multiple 7, it's 21, minus 2 is 19, and 19 multiple 2 is 38. But the answer is different. The reason is we have here some priorities. And in Python, there are some priorities in case of the different operators. For example, always parentheses come first, and then, for example, we have multiplication, division, and we need to consider. So here, it actually calculates first 3 multiple 7 is 21. Then calculate 2 multiple 2, it's 4, and 21 minus 4 is 17. So here you can actually search about Python operators priority order, and you can actually understand some examples. For example, parentheses come here, and we have an order. Let me copy this link for you here, and this is a good link that actually you can check about which operators come first. And as you can see, parentheses always actually calculated first. We have exponentials come the second level, and then we have, for example, unary plus, some multiplication, division, and there's a difference between this division and this division. And the difference is, for this one, we can actually maybe have some float in the result, but here it just give us the integer part of the actually module, and I will show you what is different. For example, here, if I say, for example, 7 divided by 3, you can guess the answer is 2.3. But if I use this one, we just have an integer in the answer, and we don't have the rest of the digit. So this is the difference between these two kinds of divisions. And what is the modular? Modular is beautiful things. For example, if we say 10 uh, modular 2, the result is 0. The reason is because 10 divided by 2 is 5 and there is not any residual here. But if I say 3 modular 3, we have 1 because 3 divided to 3, 10 divided to 3 is 3 and we have 1 residual. So this is a modular and give us the residual of every division. Okay. And we have more not and an or, and this is actually logical operators, not and an or. We can talk about that later, but it's easy to understand. For example, one, you can see, for example, true and true. What is your guess? And means that both sides must be true. In this case, the answer is true. So here the answer is true. But if just one side of our actually equation or anything is false, the and answer definitely will be false. So here true and false is false. But what about or? In or, if just one side of the equation or our actually statement anything is true, the answer is true. So here we have true. And what about the not? Not actually make anything, everything reverse. For example, not a true is false, and not a false is true. So that's about operator precedence in Python. We have another important concept, this expression and statement. Very easy if one. So for example, we have my calculation, my cal, and here I can say, for example, 3 multiple 6, something like that. Okay, doesn't matter. The calculation part is our expression, but this whole line is our statement. So the calculation part that can be actually allocated as a value inside of the variable is our actually expression, but the whole of line, including the variable name, is our statement. It's the concept we just know to understand that. Okay, that's all. Augmented assignment operator. What is that? Very easy, but very practical. Just imagine you have a variable. The variable name is again my number, and my number is 10. Okay, so in this case, I like to add, for example, 5 to this 10. One solution is you can say my num is equal to my num plus 5. And in this case, if I just print my num, so you can guess that it's 15. Yeah. But another shorter way to say something like that is we can say my num plus equal 5. So these are the same. So my num equal to my num plus 5 is exactly equal to my num plus equal 5. And you can see the answer is again 15. The same things for minus. For example, here I can say my num minus equal 5 and the answer can be 5 here. You can see here. Or even about the multiplication and the answer can be 50 here. And about even the division, so the answer is 2. So all of them work good. Just another note you need to keep in mind is, I just forget to talk about that, we have equal and we have equal. When you want to allocate a value to a variable, you use actually single equal. But you want to say something is really equal to something. For example, here I can say 1 is equal to 1. It means really equal here. Okay, so here. And there is a not equal as well. For example, I can say 5 is not equal to, for example, 4, and the answer is true again. So equal is 2 equal, and not equal is come from this side. Okay, that's all about the basic of the data type, about variables, about built-in function, formatted string. This is so practical. and we will see it a lot during this course. Operator precedence, expression statement, and the next important topic is about a string. So we put a little bit more time on this cell about a string. We will be actually familiar with the input built-in function, string concatenation, string indexes, string methods, like capitalize, like index, and we will talk about immutability in Python. First of all, about input. Input function is really practical in Python. For example, maybe I like to input my name as a variable, but I like a program be flexible to ask my name, not just allocate a actually default value to that. So in this first case, I can say my name is Pejman, so it's the default value for this variable, but maybe I have a flexible version. This is using the input. So I can say the input, and just keep in mind the default value here is a string. So we have a string. So if you want to actually use the number here, you must be very careful to use the integer behind the input. But here, just keep it simple. For example, input, you can actually ask what is your name. So now, actually, if I run the program, you can see the program asks me what is your name. And I can actually say my name is Pejman. Okay, and even you can use a print after that. I can say print, and I can say f string. I can say okay, your name is the variable name, my name. So again, run that. What is your name? Pejman. And you can see, okay, your name is Pejman. So this is the flexible way you can actually use the input. But be careful about some numbers because when you want to use the type, it can be important. For example, if you ask a number here and then want to print this number, you need to be actually careful about data type. So what does it mean? For example, let me just Ctrl/ to comment that. For example, num, and let's here num, and I can say input, please give me a number, and here I can say print f string, your chance number is num, but let's print the type of the number as well. Okay, so type num, and you can see what's the difference. So just for example 7, and can say okay, your chance number is 7, but just keep in mind here the type of 7. So my expectation is the 7 is an integer, but it says a string. The reason is, as I mentioned, that the default for input is a string, so it's return a string. So if you like to have it as an integer, you need to actually add an integer here before the input. And in this case, if I run it again and I say 7 again, you can see the type of 7 is integer. So this is an important concept. Just keep in mind when you like to actually print something a string, let's keep it like input parentheses. But for example, if you like float, integer, you need actually to say that, okay, this is a number and I like the data type of the integer in my output. Okay, so that's all about the input. It's easy but so practical, and we will use it a lot during this course. What is a string concatenation? For example, we have a name and family. Here, name can be Sarah, and family can be, for example, Luckman, and we want to actually print that. So we can say here print, and we can say, if I want to use the formatted string, that is so easy. I can say, for example, something like name space and family. And this is the reason I just suggest you to use the formatted string. This is so easy to use that. Let's comment this one as well. And here I can say Sarah Lockman. Okay, so this is the easiest way that we can actually use that. But what is the string concatenation? A string concatenation say that you want to print something, you can say name plus, you need a space here between the name and family. And this is the same output, but more effort to actually write something. So in this case, I really suggest you to use formatted string. That's all about the string concatenation. What about the string indexes? And it's actually start, stop, step. What does it mean? Let's actually again comment everything, and we need to talk about a string indexes. Okay, let's actually bring a word here, my uh, for example my string, and that can be like Budapest is a pretty city. Okay, so we have Budapest is a pretty city. And when we talk about the string indexes, it means that how we can actually refer to this statement. For example, I can say my string. So in this case, if I just want to print that, you can see this is the whole of my uh, statement. But what about when we just need the Budapest? So in this case, I can use the um, brackets, and in this bracket, square bracket actually, I need to actually say to the square bracket what is my start, stop, and step. So step is by default 1, so I don't need to define that when we need the Budapest. But the most important thing here is index in Python start from 0. This is really important. So here, if I say, for example, start from 1, if I consider the b is 1, however, that is actually 0, and go to, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, definitely that is not correct. And it's started with U. You can see here the answer is Budapest and not Budapest. And the reason is because in Python, indexes started from 0 and not 1. So B is 0 here. So here, my expectation is Budapest. Okay. And this is very practical. For example, when you want to actually use different things, and maybe I can show you some interesting things. For example, when you want to reverse whole of this statement, you can see a start to end and -1. And actually, it tried to reverse the whole of this statement. Okay, so it's interesting. Or for example, you need just this part, for example, pretty. You can actually just count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is 14. So you can see 14. From 14 to end, it can be pretty city. So you can see here, pretty city will be actually printed. So this is the way we can actually work with start, stop, and step. And we'll work on that more when we work on the list. So, but here you can actually understand that what is the start, stop, and step. And for example, even if we can say here, for example, from first to end, but 3 step. In this case, you can see it's Basiratsi. It's a strange word, but because the reason is we use this one, or again the -1 here to reverse the whole of that, or even put nothing to print all of them. Okay, we have some string methods that you can check here. About the string methods, we have different kinds of string methods. and they can be actually very practical. You can actually study that here, but let's just focus on some of the most important. For example, the first one is capitalize. So about my string, just what happened here. Another variable can be my str1, my str2. It can be something like A, B, C, D. Okay, just keep in mind this one. So let's start with capitalize. For example, my str2, and even my stry, don't need two even here, it's more clear. Capitalize. So because it's a method, we always need a parenthesis. What happens if we don't use the parenthesis here? You can see it's just give us something like a function code. Because this is a method, and method like a function in the Python, we need to use the parentheses. And you can actually return a capitalized version of the string. So let's see what happened. You can see the first letter will be capitalized. Okay. There is another things. For example, here I can say my str, and I can use uppercase. And you can guess here, it try to actually turn everything to uppercase. And we have the lowercase, so it try to, for example, if I use the my string here and lowercase, and just keep in mind the first B was capitalized here, but in the output we have B lowercase. So it tried to actually change it to the lowercase version. What's next? Count is another important things we can use here. For example, my string. I want to know how many, for example, A we have here. You can actually count that 1, 2. We have 2A here, but please count that for me, and you can see here. Okay, the name A is not defined. The reason is because A is actually a letter, so we need to put it inside of the quotation. So now you can see we have 2, and even we can actually make it more professional. We can say a print of a string, and you can say here again, you can see how much the format of the string is really practical. I can say in my this word str my string, sorry, my string, we have my string count A. In this case, it's better to use this one. I will tell you why. A letter. Just keep in mind, because I use double quotation for a string, inside of that I use single, because in this case we would have the error. So if you use the single quotation here, inside of that you can use the double quotation. Just print that. You can see a very beautiful statement that say this Budapest is a pretty city. We have 2A letter. Okay, even I can say here in this format that can be more clear, 2A letter here. So let's again comment this one, and we can find index as well. For example, my str, I want to find the index of the first letter, that is A. Okay, so what is the index of that? You can guess that this is 0 index, because I told you the first index in Python is 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So it started from 0 index to 3. So this is all about index, and it is really practical. We have replace here as well, so I can say, for example, my str replace something. For example, I want to replace a literal string with a new one, old one with a new one. The old one is here the A, so I want to say please replace A with Z, and then just print that. And you can see this is ZBCD, not ABCD. I replace A with Z. And we have more here. You can actually check them. For example, we have find, we have join. I will talk about join when we actually understand the list. It can be really important when we want to actually convert list to a string. We have replace, and split can be another important, and maybe that make more sense when we study the list, but let's talk about the split. It's not bad to understand that. For example, here I can say my str split. What happened here? It actually tried to split that inside of our list. For example, maybe here it was better to use my string. And just keep in mind how many space we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the default is it actually can make a list, and instead of list we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members. Don't worry about that. I will talk about the list. But our split is down. If we check inside of that, it try to actually return a list of the substring in the string. The separator used to split this. Here the separator is by default space, but we can change it. For example, I can say maybe the separator is. But if I just keep it in this format, we have 4. But if I change the separator to, for example, is, what happened here? Budapest, April City. We have 2 members instead of a list. So it depends on which practical case you want to use, but by default the space I try to actually separate the different variables, different amounts and members inside of the list. What about immutability? In Python, when we talk about immutability, it means that we can change and we can provide modification inside of the specific data type. So here is a string, and it means that I can change. I can actually provide some change inside of that. For example, just consider the my str here, and in my str, I want to change the first index again to p. Sorry. And this is the mutability. It means that the string lets me to change the mutability, the indexes. And that is so important because in some cases we really need to change some indexes. And now if I change that and just print my str, okay, this is a good error. The str object doesn't support item assignments. So just keep in mind in string format, when we want to actually change something, that is so important to consider the mutability and immutability. And when you have some error, you actually just can copy the error and just put it inside of the different things. You can use the ChatGPT and large language model, but Stack Overflow is another outlet. And you can see here the str object doesn't support item assignment. What does it mean? It means that uh, you can actually find different answer here, but some people answered the other answer are correct, but you can actually of course do something like this. For example, you have a string and you have a list something that, and the list 5, you want to actually change the fifth index of the list to u. In this case you can change that. So very easy. If you want to actually explain for you about mutability and immutability. Mutable and immutable means that you can actually provide change. You can actually change the numbers or change the members inside of the string or not. Even you can actually change, for example, a string is mutable. In Python string are immutable. It means that you cannot change something inside of the string. So this is the reason here you cannot actually change that. What is the mutable things? For example, list in Pythons are mutable. You can change them. Dictionary can be actually another mutable thing. We will talk about that. But here inside of the string you cannot change anything. So you cannot change anything in the index. You cannot check for my string square bracket 0 index is something like that, and it's not changing. This is immutable. This is the reason is a string is actually not mutable. Okay. So what about type conversion? The type conversion is so easy. For example, here you have a number and the number is 7. This is just one example. And you like to actually convert integer to a string. In this case, you can say my new type, or even easily you can say, for example, number to a string, and you can see str number. And then if you actually just print the type of the num to a string, and not bad to put the type here, so print type number. Let's just compare these two. The first one, number is 7, the class is integer. The second one, the print type number to a string, the class is a string. So that's all about conversion. We have definitely more. We can actually use integer, float, and other stuff, but this is all idea. I talked about the Boolean, but it's not bad to repeat that again. About Boolean, we have true and false. And you can consider true as a 1 and false as a 0. So let's recap very fast. Today we talked about part 1, data types, variables, built-in functions, strings, and more basics. We understood that we have different fundamental data type like integer, float, boolean, and string. We have some specific data type like module. We talk about that later. And custom types like class. And data types are different from data structure like list, tuple, set, and dictionary. And the way we can actually find the type of something, a value inside the Python is using the built-in function type. About variable, we understood that there are some rules like snake case start with lowercase, case sensitive, not started with numbers. We have a constant concept that means that a value that we don't like to change that, like p value is 3.14. There are some built-in functions like print, abs, round, and more we can use like type, and that are very useful. And we've understood that this is better to use format the string instead of the string concatenation. That is more straightforward, and it can be really practical when you write a very complex program in the Python. We actually understood about operator precedence. There are some priorities, and I talked about that. We understood that the calculation part of the this line is expression, and the whole of that is statement. The augmented assignment operator can help us to make actually shorter statements but keep the functionality. We talked a lot about the string to use that, and we understood how we can use the input function. And just keep in mind the default output is a string, so if you need some integer, you need to put the integer here. And we have some string concatenation concept. We had string indexes, start, stop, step. We understood that we have some methods like a function inside of the string. We can use that, and I put the link here. And we understood that the string is not mutable. It means that we cannot change it by index. And type conversion is so easy, and the booleans are true and false. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this part 1. We will continue this series with more and more, and we will talk about data structure, function, classes, modules, image processing, machine learning things like pandas library, numpy library, a lot of more things I will share with you very soon. Please put in the comment if you are actually needed more and more, and maybe I can share with you some examples and some actually more practice as well. Have a nice day, and bye bye.